The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
AI, which is taking over the world. That's, I mean, I'm looking at you guys. You're taking over the world.
The United States and the UK positioning themselves as tech leaders with a historic new partnership. What else President Trump said about foreign wars and the debate over free speech in England today.
Fought more than a good fight. You fought the critical fight for us. Job well done. And we will love you forever in all eternity.
3 police officers dead while another fights for their life. What we know about that fatal shooting and what led up to it in York County, Pennsylvania. And then fraudulent numbers, which state labor department officials are looking at to explain last week's abnormally high unemployment claims and why it could be a surprise to red state supporters. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. Right now, President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump headed back to the White House, arriving in about 2 hours. The return to the U.S. from the United Kingdom following a historic new partnership, a tech partnership forged between the two nations. Today, President Trump signed the $340 billion tech prosperity deal alongside UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The agreement, meant to promote tech investment in both nations, is heavily focused on AI investment.
The ties between our countries are priceless, and it's really an inheritance. It's a beautiful inheritance. Today we're making those ties closer than ever before. We've done some things that financially are great for both countries, and we work together, and it keeps us together, and I think it's an unbreakable bond we have.
The signing of the tech deal, just one of the stops President Trump made on the second day of his UK state visit, which also included a joint press conference with Prime Minister Keir Starmer with a focus on international issues as well as debates on free speech. The National News Desk, Matt Galka, joins us with the latest.
Before his visit to England ended, the president and UK's Prime Minister talked tech, agreeing to a partnership on artificial intelligence.
Areas such as AI, which is taking over the world. That's, I mean, I'm looking at you guys. You're taking over the world, Jensen. I don't know what you're doing here. I hope you're right.
The conversation quickly shifted to conflicts around the world. Many of America's European allies have been calling for more pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war with Ukraine. Trump admitted solving the conflict hasn't been easy.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin. But he's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine, but we'll see how that turns out.
Trump has pushed for NATO countries to stop buying oil from Russia, saying earlier in the week he'd be ready to sanction Russia if that happened. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Putin is basically only willing to listen to Trump.
We have to put extra pressure on Putin, and it's only when the president has put pressure on Putin that he's actually shown any inclination to move. So we have to ramp that pressure up.
Starmer also took time to denounce the killing of activist Charlie Kirk.
It sent shockwaves through the world, and I know that he was a friend of the president, and I reached out straight away to the president because I understood how impactful it'd be on him and his family. And we all need to be absolutely clear about that. Whatever our political views, it is shocking and is to be condemned.
While the two leaders also committed to peace in the Middle East and a push for the release of hostages in the Israel-Hamas war, President Trump said he disagreed, a rare disagreement he called it, with the UK's upcoming decision to recognize a Palestinian state.
Now, President Trump sat down with Fox News after that joint appearance with the UK Prime Minister. Matt, did he have more to say on Russia?
He did. He doubled down again on saying NATO needs to stop buying Russian oil and again saying he was disappointed in Russian President Vladimir Putin. But he was non-committal when asked about more Russian aggression that we've seen happening in recent weeks, including the drones that entered Polish airspace and the Swedish Air Force having to chase away Russian fighter planes over the Baltic Sea.
In Washington, D.C., Matt Galka, thank you. Now, we also learned today the U.S. is trying to get Bagram Air Base back from the Taliban. The president dropped that pretty big news during that presser alongside U.K. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, but without many details to follow. Bagram Air Base is a former U.S. military base in Afghanistan. You may remember the Biden administration's widely criticized withdrawal from that base in 2021 after nearly 20 years of continuous U.S. presence at the site. Now, following the departure of U.S. troops, it took just weeks for the Taliban to seize control of the Bagram airfield and Afghanistan. The first Trump administration negotiated a deal in 2020 with the Taliban for the departure of U.S. troops. But today, President Trump says again he would have executed America's withdrawal very differently had he still been in office.
We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back.
President Trump did not expand on who he was referring to or if referring to the Taliban, what they need from us. He also added concern about Bagram's close proximity to where China makes its nuclear weapons. New information from prosecutors about the man suspected of firing upon officers in the deadly Pennsylvania shooting yesterday afternoon. We've now learned the suspect was wanted for stalking a former girlfriend hours before the deadly firefight. When officers came to serve a warrant, he was trespassing inside that ex-girlfriend's home in a rural York County farm area and then ambushed officers at the door.
They decided that they were going to go in. The door was open, and upon immediately opening the door, the actor repeatedly fired at the officers with multiple rounds from an AR-15 styled rifle with a suppressor.
3 police officers were killed. 1 was critically wounded and is still hospitalized. The York County DA says 24-year-old Matthew James Ruth, the suspected stalker, was fatally shot by police and returned fire. Now, this is a developing story. We will continue to update you. That deadly ambush, just one of dozens of attacks on officers so far this year. Tonight, the National News Desk, Rebecca Pryor, speaks with a national law enforcement expert specifically about the risk they face when serving warrants.
First responders rushing to the latest in a series of high-profile shootings against law enforcement serving warrants.
This kind of violence isn't okay. We need to do better as a society.
Earlier this year at a home in rural South Carolina, a suspect wanted on multiple outstanding warrants, opening fire on 2 sheriff's deputies, injuring 1 and killing 27-year-old Devin Mason. And at a shopping center in Houston, Texas, Deputy Jesus Vargas shot and killed in broad daylight while approaching a suspect with a warrant in hand.
This has always been a problem.
Sounding the alarm on what appears to be a troubling trend.
Serving arrest warrants as well as search warrants, but especially arrest warrants, is one of the most dangerous things a police officer can do.
National Police Association spokesperson Sergeant Betsy Smith says while officers can prepare, they never know when an armed suspect could be awaiting their arrival. A risk often heightened by a pileup of warrants and a shortage of officers.
There is almost in every area of this country a backlog of warrants to be served. An ideal warrant service would involve armored vehicles, would involve a SWAT team, would involve drone support, but we just don't have those resources today in modern American law enforcement.
Smith saying the tragedy should serve as a reminder to appreciate those who serve you. According to the National Fraternal Order of Police, these 5 York County officers joined more than 60 shot and ambush-style attacks so far this year, making up more than a fourth of all officer shootings nationwide.
The committee who advises the CDC on vaccine guidance has just voted to change the recommendation for the MMRV vaccine. It protects against measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella. The members say for children under 4, the MMR vaccine should be given separately from the varicella vaccine. Votes on other shots are expected tomorrow. The Health and Human Services Department is trying to get to the bottom of long COVID. Today, Secretary Kennedy announced at a roundtable that HHS is launching a long COVID consortium.
Long COVID is real. It's been underestimated and overestimated. We are here today to try to help those who are suffering from long COVID.
Now, Kennedy said they are trying to narrow down the roughly 300 symptoms currently listed by the CDC as being linked to long COVID. Well, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, as well as other District of Columbia officials, testified before Congress about the city's recent decrease in crime rate. President Trump federalized the D.C. police and surged the National Guard into the city last month. And today, Mayor Muriel Bowser said the reduction of crime has been more of a downward slope over the last 2 years.
It is true that we experienced, like many places, a spike in 2023. I can say unequivocally, this is not 2023. In each of the past 2 years, we have driven down crime.
Democrats on the committee called the president's efforts in the city unlawful and an overreach of power. Meanwhile, Republicans applauded the crackdown and 4 crime bills recently aimed at overhauling D.C.'s criminal justice system in line with President Trump's demands. President Donald Trump is appealing to the Supreme Court to be allowed to fire Federal Reserve Board Governor Lisa Cook. Earlier this week, a D.C. appeals court ruled against the administration, saying Cook has the right to defend allegations against her before being dismissed. The Department of Justice is investigating whether Cook committed mortgage fraud in documents she signed before her term on the Federal Reserve began. She has not yet been charged with a crime. Other news out of the Supreme Court today, we are learning they will hear challenges to President Trump's sweeping tariffs on November 5th. The High Court is consolidating 2 cases that argue the president needs congressional approval before changing import tariffs. The current tariff rates will stay in effect for now. Search and rescue efforts continue in Thurston County, Washington, for the crew of a military helicopter that crashed late last night in the Summit Lake area. The crash site was found in the early hours of this morning, but rescue efforts were called off because the area was engulfed in flames. Locals to the area describe what they saw overnight.
Yeah, we heard a couple of really loud bangs, came outside, there was flash of light. Then my neighbor had come down and said he saw the helicopter go down.
The U.S. Army confirmed the helicopter was on a routine training mission, but did not specify how many crew members were on board. A multi-department search for 2 missing hunters expanding on the Colorado-New Mexico border. Andrew Porter and Ian Stasko from Asheville, North Carolina, have not been seen or heard from in a week. This past week in Colorado, deputies found their vehicle with their supplies and backpacks. The pair initially arrived at the campsite on September 11th. Still ahead, what Antifa's new designation as a terror group could mean for those with suspected ties. Then the House investigation into former President Biden is wrapping up the major allegations against the final witness to testify. Also on the way, more than a week after his death, supporters continue to mourn Charlie Kirk. The latest on the growing influence of the political activist. We're back in 90 seconds. It's been a target of President Trump for years, and tonight he's taking action designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. But the group is not official and operates domestically, two factors that could complicate his move, as Christine Frizzell reports.
The movement gained national prominence back in 2017, facing off with far-right protesters in Charlottesville, Virginia, and staging violent demonstrations following the murder of George Floyd in cities like Portland and Seattle. Antifa, short for anti-fascist, has been a Trump target for years.
Antifa's a bad group, and they're criminals, and they're anarchists, and they're agitators.
President Trump now declaring he's designating the group, which he calls a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization.
I think it strengthens prosecutions of Antifa, but it's really kind of a vague, ambiguous legal classification.
The group, though, is not an actual organization. There's no leadership or centralized message. One reason his previous FBI director said this at a House hearing.
We look at Antifa as more of an ideology or a movement than an organization.
Concerns mounting from critics after more than 20 Republicans signed this letter asking Speaker of the House Mike Johnson to form a new committee to investigate, quote, the money, influence, and power behind the radical left's assault on America, to include non-governmental organizations, donors, media, and public officials, as lawmakers warn of a dangerous new chapter that could lead to all voices the president doesn't like being silenced.
They're using this tragedy in this moment where we need leadership and unifying of Americans. They're using it to now target free speech. They're using it to target political dissent and to crack down on their political opponents.
Legal experts tell me that this designation will give the FBI and Justice Department far greater authority to go after people with any connections to Antifa. That's because under the Patriot Act, signed into law after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, suspected supporters of domestic terrorism can be targeted simply because of their beliefs and their speech. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
The House Oversight Committee's investigation into former President Biden's final months in the White House is drawing to a close. Their final witness, former Biden Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, testified today. Chairman James Comer claims Zients knows how the White House was administering the auto pen. Republicans suggest big decisions were approved using that auto pen without Biden.
So we believe Zients is the guy that was potentially making a lot of decisions down the stretch and had a lot of responsibility with respect to the unauthorized use of the auto pen.
Biden and former Biden officials insist he administered every major decision made. Well, the job market seems to be back on track as U.S. unemployment claims fell significantly last week and further than expected in the latest job numbers released by the Labor Department. 33,000 fewer people filed for unemployment insurance than the week prior, which saw the highest number of claims in the country since October of 2021. But those numbers are now in question as well. 2 weeks ago, Texas filed for the most new unemployment claims in the country with 32,000 filings, an abnormally high number. And the Texas State Workforce Commission says these claims in the week ending September 6th are related to an increase in fraud attempts. A spokesperson says, quote, since Labor Day, we've observed an uptick in identity fraud claim attempts aimed at exploiting the unemployment insurance system. President Trump argues ABC's suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's late-night talk show is over his ratings, not an attack on free speech.
And he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
This comes as President Trump is calling on NBC to fire its late-night host and after CBS announced it will sunset Stephen Colbert's show. Trump has been the butt of late-night jokes for the better part of a decade. Kimmel's suspension has opened debate over whether his free speech is being violated or whether the decision is a justified consequence of his monologue. 3 Florida Atlantic University professors are on leave over social media posts related to Charlie Kirk. FAU didn't identify the posts, but said the school is focused on promoting civil discourse. 2 of the professors said the school violated their First Amendment rights. The other said she didn't comment on Kirk's death. Lawmakers weighed in on the situation and the balance between free speech and professional responsibility.
You voice something that becomes a big pushback from the community. The employer will step up and say, hey, you're about to kill our business based on what you're saying online.
FAU is investigating the professor's post. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in North Carolina, where the aftermath of Helene is affecting businesses nearly a year after the devastating storm.
The images of dumpsters floating past Andaz in Biltmore Village are as vivid today as they were a year ago for co-owner Rajbir Singh.
It's quite scarring to go through something like this.
As businesses around him launched cleanups and reopened, he's wavered.
Do I really want to go through this again?
Biltmore Village's flooding history giving Singh pause.
I really didn't want to do that, so I found the highest place which was available in town and just took that.
While other business owners rolled the dice and reopened in the flood-prone district, many may be unaware of what FEMA documents reveal. 35% of Asheville's stormwater infrastructure is inadequate when extreme rain events hit.
What stood for more than 20 years came down in about 20 seconds.
We had to evaluate whether it made sense to refurbish them and make them run longer or to take them down. And it turned out that these wind facilities were prototypes at the time, and it was just really hard to find the parts to refurbish them. And so the most economical way was to take them down and to start a new project in the vicinity of the project at some point in the future.
Planning was meticulous before the turbines came down to make sure it was done safely.
Vandalism escalated into gunfire in North Carolina. Business owner Mark Thomas said he was watching his surveillance cameras when he saw a man get out of a Jeep and tear down a Trump banner belonging to Thomas's 87-year-old mother.
If that one sign he saw triggered him, then if he would have seen the 4 on the porch and the 2 or 3 back here in the back, his head would have just exploded.
Thomas said he went to the porch with a rifle and fired 2 shots in the air. He said the man fired several rounds back from the road. Police said the Jeep has been identified and they are investigating what happened. Well, coming up, the upcoming date that all senators have designated as a National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk, right after this. The Senate has unanimously passed a resolution designating October 14th, 2025 as a National Day of Remembrance for slain political activist Charlie Kirk. October 14th is Kirk's birthday, and the resolution was introduced by Republican Senator Rick Scott of Florida. Supporters continue to mourn Kirk's death. The National News Desk, Kayla Gaskins, is joining us with the latest.
Charlie Kirk's immense influence on conservative Americans.
I was really sad when he died. It was really hard for me.
Highly visible this week through the vigils held in his honor from Charleston, South Carolina, to New Hampshire, USA! To Arizona, USA! To California.
The thing that bothers me most is knowing that he's never going to go home to his never going to go home to his wife and his kids.
If silencing Charlie Kirk was the assassin's goal,
so what is a woman?
The opposite is happening. Kirk's presence growing even larger in death.
What a gift from God.
Yeah. She truly is.
His videos continue to go viral and his social media pages gain millions of new followers.
You cannot have a generation of young men just check out.
Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, says since his assassination, they've received 54,000 requests from high school and college students across the country who either want to join an existing chapter or open a new chapter on their campus.
I pledge to pick up where Charlie Kirk has left off.
This Sunday, a memorial service will be held at the Cardinals' NFL Stadium in Arizona. Top White House officials are slated to attend. Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, Vice President J.D. Vance, and President Trump are all expected to speak. Turning Point USA announced on Thursday Erica Kirk will take over as CEO to carry on her husband's legacy. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Erica Kirk was unanimously elected to that position, as well as chair of the board. Turning Point USA saying Charlie had told multiple executives this is what he wanted in the event of his death. Coming up, what happened to an ancient gold bracelet that disappeared from a museum in Egypt? Right after this. Well, 4 people have been arrested in connection with the disappearance of a 3,000-year-old gold bracelet that belonged to an Egyptian pharaoh. Egypt's Interior Ministry said a restoration specialist stole that bracelet from a museum safe. It was then melted down and sold multiple times. The ministry said the suspects confessed and will all face legal challenges and consequences. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Taylor Murray.